So good day, people. It's been interesting this last 2 months for me. I've been on a massive healing journey and a spiritual awakening. And I've come to an interesting understanding. I spent my whole life believing love wasn't real, okay? And always feeling like I wasn't good enough. And I became very angry and very bitter. And I started to believe that it didn't matter what I did, I was just never gonna find love. Funny thing is that what needed to happen was I needed to learn how to love myself. And that didn't actually happen until I stopped trying to be what everyone else wanted me to be. It's never gonna matter how much you change or how much you bend or how much you give. If you don't truly honor yourself, if you don't truly seek to be your authentic self, you're never going to feel loved by anyone. It's just a fact. Even now, I have connections in my life that are teaching me once again to choose myself, because you're always going to have someone who wants to love you, who wants to be in your life, who wants to share wonderful experiences with you. And they may give you all the wonderful words. They may even have the right energy and feel like they have the right vibration. But if their actions aren't matching what they're saying, what are you going to do about it, right? There's not much you can do about it. If someone's not willing to put in the effort, if someone's not willing to do that extra mile, to follow their words with actions, then it's just words. And maybe in their imagination, that's who they want to be. Maybe they really genuinely want to be everything they're saying. And in the past, maybe you've been that person where you want to be the person that you're trying to pretend to be, right? And we all kind of fall into those traps, but it doesn't actually help us reach that level of feeling accepted and loved. So in order to reach that acceptance of love, sorry, I had to talk to my kids for a second. But yeah, if you're not willing to reach inward and look into yourself and get to know yourself and fall in love with yourself, you're always going to either fall into the trap of being the person that wants to be somebody they're not, so they can fit into a situation that they feel like they should belong in, but they don't really actually feel comfortable in. Or you're going to accept people into your life that give you all the pretty words and say all the nice things, but their actions don't correlate with what's coming out of their mouth. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people, and it doesn't mean that they don't genuinely want to be that person that they're trying to be. It's that they have more growing to do. They have more healing to do. Maybe they have shadow work they haven't accomplished yet. And that's when it becomes really, really important to have a relationship with yourself. Now, if you haven't gone on a spiritual journey yet, or an awakening, or done any trauma healing, you might not understand me when I tell you you have to find a connection to your higher self. Your higher self is basically what everyone else calls your subconscious, but it's not a subconscious, it's a higher consciousness. You know, your intuition that gives you those nudges like, oh, I better stop here and take this road instead of that road. And all of a sudden you realize later it's because the other road was closed and you didn't know until you got to where you were going. Your higher self knows everything. There is no time, okay? Time is kind of a made up thing for the earth game. So your higher self can see everything, everywhere, all at once. It knows, but our monkey brains can't process that much information. So it has to give us those intuitive nudges. So it's not your subconscious giving you intuition, it's a higher consciousness. And I don't want it to be called a subconscious because it makes it sound like it's below our monkey brain, but it's not. It's actually above our monkey brain. And when you're finally able to get out of your head and into your body and feel those nudges, then you'll understand. So I think the point of this video is to tell you guys that it's not going to matter what you do, okay? It's really not going to matter what you do. You're never going to be able to change other people's minds. You're never going to convince them that you're somebody you're not. And you're never going to be able to convince somebody else who they are. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how many times you love someone, how many times you forgive someone. If you're doing it for the wrong reason, meaning it's not given freely without any expectation of anything back, it's always going to leave you disappointed. If you give love or compassion or even money, doesn't matter what you give, if you are giving something to somebody, you better make sure you're giving it from the right place with no expectations back, right? I remember there was a few people in my life where I said to them, I love you. And I genuinely did love them in that moment, like with all my heart. And they couldn't understand how I could look at them in the eye and say, I love you, but I don't actually want anything from you. It's a true story. I didn't want anything from them. I just wanted them to know that in that moment, in that time, I genuinely loved them with all my heart and I wanted nothing but the best for them. But did I want something from them? No, because that wasn't the point. The point was I genuinely wanted them to be happy and know that they were loved, even if it was just for a moment. And that's how you should approach people that you genuinely love, is love them in the moment, knowing that maybe in a few hours you might be annoyed at them. You'll still love them, but you might be a little more annoyed at them. But don't ever love somebody or give somebody something with an expectation of a return, because you will always be disappointed. That's not the point. But that also brings up a very good point. Do you do that with yourself? Forget about other people. Forget about how much you give other people or how much you don't get back from other people or how much it doesn't matter what you do. These other people will never meet your standards, blah, 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 blah. Forget that, okay? Because you can't control other people, ever. It's not for you to control. But do you give yourself love and compassion willingly without any expectations? No judgment? How many times have you given love freely to someone else who maybe didn't deserve it, without judgment, with compassion, freely? How many times have you done it for yourself in comparison? Because it won't matter what you do out there in that world, this 3D Earth game, this game that is just meant to teach us how to connect to our higher selves in the first place. None of that will matter unless you start treating yourself the way you wish other people treated you. It's a true story. I am never going to put myself in a position ever again where I'm giving more than I can. I'm always going to stop when I know it's time to stop. I'm never going to put all my eggs in one basket. And I'm never going to blindly just believe words that come out of somebody's mouth. Because it doesn't matter how much they want to believe what they're saying. If they can't follow through with actions, it's just words. And they could be lying to themselves because they're not willing to do the internal work right now. And maybe it's scary. Maybe they're afraid to do the internal work. Again, not my problem, because I can't control them. I can only control me. And I really do love myself these days. I find that I've become somebody I admire. And I have really learned that I don't need other people to love me. Not really. Not in the way I used to feel like I needed. Even though I needed it, I wanted it, but I never believed it was real. Have you guys been there where you believe that I need this kind of love, I want this kind of love, but yet you don't think it's real? You start loving on yourself, you start falling in love with yourself, you're gonna realize love is real, and you'll never, ever settle for being treated or mistreated, treated like crap, mistreated ever again. Your standards for what you need, what you deserve, are going to come up here to the forefront of your mind, and you'll never settle. And as much as someone gives you fancy, pretty words and tells you, I love you, and I want this for you, and you're special, if they don't prove it with actions, you won't even be bothered by it. You'll just be like, well, okay, and off you'll go and do your thing. And you'll feel good about it. Could you imagine not being upset because you know you got your own back? It's amazing. You can do it. I promise. Love you guys.